afternoon and welcome. This is Alex Ortner from rawfor30days.com and the movement to reverse diabetes naturally. And I'm joined here by somebody who's, if you've seen our film Simply Raw, Reversing Diabetes in 30 Days, is one of the health experts featured in the film. And he's actually here visiting us. We're here at my brother's house and kind of talking about health and diabetes and you know, World Diabetes Day and kind of all the things that we're working to do and all the things that he's working to do. So we figured we'd talk for a few minutes and kind of share some of his expert knowledge in raw food, since I don't think there's really anybody better. Since you've been on, how long have you been on a raw food diet for?
It's a little over 40 years. But actually I've been eating raw foods longer than that. I'm talking about 100% raw. Actually, I've been eating probably at least 50% raw for maybe 55 years or so, but 100% raw.
What got you into raw foods initially 55 years ago when you first started?
Well, to be honest with you, I was brought up in an immigrant Italian family, and my mother had a large garden out in the back, and we were poor people, and we ate a lot of vegetables because in those days, you know, during the Depression, the end of the Depression was economical. Yeah. And one of my brothers had a little sawed-off shotgun. He used to go out and hunt rabbits and pheasants. So we really did eat from the ground, and sometimes we didn't have meat to eat, so we were very prone to eating vegetables. And my mother made a lot of escarole and beans and a lot of salads and a lot of antipastos where you just cut up raw vegetables, carrots, you know, celery, fennel, you know, which is anise. Yeah. So we always ate a lot of raw vegetables. But then my brothers were all athletes. They were all big guys. They were into boxing, and I was into boxing. Got into weightlifting in 1950. Or 51, I was the United States Navy heavyweight weightlifting champion. Yeah. So I was very into health. So I wanted to improve my performance, and I ran into a guy that was a natural hygienist of raw food, and I was very curious. I thought it was kind of weird in the beginning, and after I became a nutritionist, I wanted to try it to find out how much validity. I didn't think it had a lot of validity. It turned out it was fabulous. Yeah. It turned out that I did it for a while. Then I decided to go 100%. After I went 100%, I just stayed with it because, I mean, I lost a tremendous amount of weight. Yeah. I lost over 70 pounds in the first year, but I felt fabulous. But I wasn't looking that good compared to what I looked like before. Yeah. But I felt tremendous. I mean, my consciousness opened up. I've actually got more interested in spirituality, and I knew it was the way to go. But it's not easy to do it consistently. There's social ramifications. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit when we were off camera, and you know, I think in kind of the raw food community, there's always, I feel, that there's a lot of pressure that people put on themselves to be 100% raw. Yeah. You know, you've been raw, 100% raw for over 40 years, and I'm not 100% raw. I never say that I am. What do you recommend in terms of, you know, do you have to be 100% raw, or what do you recommend people do when they want to get healthier, most importantly? Alex, absolutely not. There are some people that don't do well on a 100% raw food diet. Yeah. I see a lot of people. I've probably seen, a conservative estimate would be 25,000 people in the last, I don't know how many years. A lot of people, though. Yeah. And I've seen people do very, very well on a diet that was not 100% raw. Yeah. It's all based on the concept of what you leave out. For everything you leave out, there's a reciprocal amount of improvement. My personal belief, if you can get the average person, you can get them into a diet that's 60, 70, even 80% raw, 20% cooked, and then if you can get them to become vegan, fine. Yeah. But if you can't become vegan, I even tell some people they can become healthy by eating a small amount of animal protein like fish, maybe every other day. And I have some fabulous results with people that do that. Yeah. Plus, you have a better chance of not having as many social ramifications. You're not going to have any problem from your relatives, your mother-in-law, your sister, your mother. Yeah. And there's another factor that once you've been eating 100% raw consistently over a long period of time, you have to be careful about any kind of medical treatment. But if you're eating, say you're eating a diet that's maybe 20% cooked, you can tolerate medical treatment. Yeah. And I've had a couple of very bad accidents were really problematic, where I knew very well that I have to be very careful about general anesthesia, and I choose not to do it, and luckily I was able to recover. 3 doctors told me I would never move never be able to use my left arm correctly.
Yeah.
And based on what I do, with my diet, and I have a hyperbaric chamber, I have an infrared sauna, plus I was able to deal with the pain, because when you truly eat 100% raw, and you don't eat late at night, you can handle pain. It's just unbelievable. Yeah. And I can do anything with my arm. They said I wasn't going to be able to do it. Yeah. So I try to, I'm not a dogmatic guy. I try to encourage people to do better. Now, whatever they can do, I try to bring them up to that level. If they want to go to another level, we take them to another level. If they decide they want to go all raw, absolutely. Yeah. But the key is, it's the long term. A lot of people fail in the long term that fail. So the key is, after you've been doing it 10, 15, 20, 30 years, the whole situation changes. You can't eat as much, because if you're eating as much as you did the first 10 years, yeah, and you're doing it later on, you don't feel good. Yeah. I remember in the beginning there, I said, why am I not feeling that good? So I thought maybe, could there be possibly some kind of a deficiency? I monitored my blood, there wasn't any. Then I realized I was eating more food than I should have. Yeah. I cut my food intake in half. I felt like $1 million.
Yeah, we actually talked about that earlier. You were telling me a story about people that you've met that lived over 100 years old.
Yeah.
And you were talking about a man in your neighborhood who was 104 years old.
Yeah, Luigi.
Tell us about Luigi and how he got to live to 104 years old.
I love to tell the story.
Do you know? I guess he's not in your neighborhood anymore. So
no, I think he went back there.
Okay. So we
what
don't know
happened?
how old
he's tremendous
gotten to
story.
be. So.
Yeah, like I love the story. Rory must have heard it 1,000 times. I was out in my yard one day, and he comes walking by, and this guy looked fabulous. His teeth were green. He never brushed his teeth. He had a head of hair that was just unbelievable. He probably never cut his hair. It was thick, like a Brillo pad. Yeah. He looked tremendous. He says to me, "Buongiorno." I said, "Buongiorno." So they knew he was Italian. And I said, "How you doing? I see you walking around here a lot." I said, "What's your name?" He says, "Luigi." He says, "What's your name?" I said, "Freddie." I said, "Wow." I said, "Luigi, how old are you?" He says, 104, which is 104. Well, I dropped my rake right away, and I said, I gotta ask this fellow what he was eating. I said, "Luigi, what do you eat?" He says, "Io non piaccio mangiare." That means in Italian, I don't like to eat. So that got my curiosity, because I know about caloric restriction. I automatically live that way. Yeah. So I says, "What do you eat?" He said, "Un piccolo bicchiere di vino," which is a little glass of wine. Yeah. "Insalata," which is salad. He loved vegetables. "Piatto di zuppa," which he loves soup. Yeah. I said, "How about meat? Do you eat meat?" He said, "Io non piaccio carne." He said, "I don't like meat." So he says he ate a little bit of pasta, fagioli, which is beans, escarole. He loved beans and vegetables. Yeah. And he said he ate a little bit of fish, a little bit. So I said, "Well, that's amazing." And he was a pretty sturdy guy. I said, "Well, how many meals a day do you eat? 3?" He said, "No, uno. 1 meal a day." Yeah. So here he was with this, not overburdening your system. Yeah. So that's a big thing. I see people, my mother had a friend, her name was Valeria, same thing, she ate like a bird, died when she was 104. Yeah. It's amazing. So there's many, many different variables about this.
So you think it's just eating less meals, or just also eating just very small portions at a time?
Well, I think as your body changes, as I said before, as your body becomes more efficient, you require less food to accomplish the same thing. You become more caloric efficient. Yeah. That's the key. Yeah. Now, you can't go into that type of diet right off, because you won't be nourished. Yeah. As your body gets cleaner, becomes more efficient, you need less food, and you actually have more energy with less food. Don't forget, you don't have to labor as much with the metabolic process. If you're not eating a lot of food, your body doesn't have to work that hard, because the average person expends about 70% of the energy to digest their food. So if you're eating fruits and vegetables, you're not eating a lot, and even if people are eating other foods, just small amounts, and you're satisfied. You're not eating late at night, because when it goes from daylight to darkness, the optic nerve in your eye sends a message to the hypothalamus gland to slow down your metabolism. So if you're eating late at night, you're not going to digest your food. You're not going to feel good in the morning. So if you follow these rules, they're natural laws. Your body's going to be much more efficient, and when you're sleeping at night, you're actually on dialysis. So the length of time it takes to purify your blood and energize you is based on how much